to take a deep dive into the world of Nico Cantor, aka Boca Juniors, as they prepare to play in the Club World Cup. They are the CONMEBOL Kings, six-time Copa Libertadores champs, most recently in 2007. So a big drought for the club. And fun fact, Lamine Yamal wasn't even born yet the last time Boca won Libertadores.
Thanks, Aly.
Sorry, Nico. All right, Argentinian powerhouse, though, so this is good. The Buenos Aires Giants are 35-time Argentinian League champs. Their last title came in 2022, and only River Plate has more with 38. And Superclásico, part of one of the world's biggest rivalries with River and Boca, they do hold the 91-89 edge with 85 draws, and that rivalry dates back to 1913. There have been legends galore at the club. Diego Maradona and Carlos Tevez are among the team's most famous players. So, yeah, are we making you feel a little bit better here, Nico? Okay, let's talk about the history. They reached the Club World Cup final in only previous appearance, and that was in 2007 when they lost to AC Milan that season. All right, no better person to tell us all about Boca Juniors than lifelong fan, our own Nico Cantor. So, yeah. Nico, can you just tell us what makes this club so special and why it's so special for you in your life?
Yeah, I'll add to everything that you're saying that, sure, Boca got to the Club World Cup final in 2007, but before the Club World Cup in 2007, there was an Intercontinental Cup. The Copa Libertadores champion would play the Champions League champion in a one-off game in Tokyo, Japan. Mm-hmm. Boca won that title 3 times, and 2 of those were when I was like 10, 11 years old. I grew up watching, arguably, I wouldn't say arguably, I grew up watching the best Boca Juniors of all time. So obviously it's in my blood.
That's a kid that would have absolutely stormed a pitch.
Yeah, definitely. Unstoppable there. I don't know what I'm holding in my hand, but listen, Boca's in my blood, obviously, from a very little kid. Being a fan, my mom was very happy when she sent me this with my cousin Emmy.
You look the exact same, by the way.
Yeah, I do. My head has only just stayed the same. The rest of my body's gotten bigger.
You just got a little taller.
And this is at the Copa Libertadores final a little while ago. Boca runs through my blood, is what we've been saying from the very beginning. I didn't choose to be a Boca fan. I was just born a Boca fan. And it just so happened that the best Boca of all time was when I was really starting to understand football by my own, right? And that time was absolutely epic. I grew up in an era where I truly believed, and I will say that Boca was the best team in the world. We beat Real Madrid. We beat Milan in the Intercontinental Cup. We weren't just winning Libertadores. We were then beating the best teams in Europe.
So we did see off the top Superclásico. I mean, this is like one of the best rivalries. Boca, River, like, can you just explain to people who aren't familiar with it what makes it so special and one of the biggest and best in all of world football?
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the reasons why Boca is so big is because of its people. In Argentina, it's more than just being a fan. It's part of your identity, who you support, why you support. And I mean, going back to this moment, I remember watching this. Tevez got sent off. That was the second yellow, by the way, in that game, and I cried. It was a Copa Libertadores semifinal. Boca would end up getting to the final of the Copa Libertadores and losing, and then they would meet again, Boca and River in the final in 2018. It was, they've created these epic moments that are culture defining for both of these clubs. River, historically, the rich club, right in the posh part of Buenos Aires. Boca, founded by Genovese immigrants back in 1905 in the poorer part of town, where the port of Buenos Aires is its mouth, right? Boca, la boca, it's the opening, right, of the city, and that's why Boca is called Boca Juniors. It's the small version of La Boca, which is a very vibrant part of town, so much color because it's a lot of the people, and I think Boca are very represented by the people. So Boca, historically, I don't know if they've played the best football, if they're like categorized as playing the best football, but what you know, if they're playing well, if they're playing poorly, they're going to give you that grit. They're going to fight. Even in eliminations recently, it's kind of been the nastier side of that fight, but Boca's always going to go down swinging. That's what you know about Boca, because that's what the people expect. So because you have this very fervent fandom behind the club, you get a reaction out of the players, and that's what's different in Argentina, where I feel like a lot of the times in Europe, what you see on the pitch affects what goes on in the stands. Not in Argentina. It's what happens in the stands affects what you see on the pitch.
Well, you are the perfect just embodiment of exactly that. I can't even imagine what, like, you know, times 1,000 of this looks like. But right now they're getting set for the Club World Cup.
Yeah.
So how would you describe the state of Boca Juniors at this moment going into this big competition?
Yeah, Boca aren't doing great at the moment. I don't know if disaster is a right word, but they're trying to find themselves. They just fired their coach. Miguel Ángel Russo is the coach of Boca now. He was the coach when Boca won the Libertadores back in 2007. He's had a lot of personal struggles. He's dealt with cancer. He was coaching San Lorenzo. Most recently, he's now back at Boca, but he hasn't debuted. Boca got eliminated from the league just a couple of weeks ago, and they fired Fernando Gago. So now they've hired him. He hasn't managed a single game for Boca. His debut will be against Benfica at the Club World Cup. Ooh. And for me, it wouldn't be a surprise if Boca were out of the group stage, because even under Fernando Gago, sure, they were winning a lot of games, but I think, and they were going into those playoffs first in the league table in their zone, but I think that speaks more about the low quality in Argentine football than how good Boca really were. Boca, sure, they won games, but they didn't really have football in them. They didn't have an idea. They didn't have a philosophy. Sometimes they just won the games. There's a couple of good, talented players on Boca, but they still kind of need an idea, a defined style of play that we haven't seen.
So take us through this projected lineup. I mean, where is the strength of this team? If they are to find success and get out of Group C, what does it come down to? If that identity is kind of missing a little bit.
It'll come down to a lot of hustle that I think Boca will give you. We have a really good goalkeeper in Agustín Marchesín, a great center back in Rodrigo Batalla. Marcos Rojo will probably start giving that. Ayrton Costa is dealing with some visa issues at the moment and might not be able to come to the United States. Zenon has kind of tapered off a little bit. He was a really bright spot. He a very versatile midfielder, but his best moments in the Boca shirt were a little while before than most recently. This kid, Carlos Palacio, has come over from Chile, and he's very talented, but he's still yet to really produce incredible moments consistently. And I would like to see more from him, because you can tell that he's very talented. We have former FC Dallas player Alan Velasco, that's also, again, a lot of talent, but they're not really bringing the game together. You compare it to a kid like Mastantuono at River Plate. We talked about him the last time we did the River breakdown. You see how he is able to combine and control games, and River comes together. They're often functioning as glue, these midfielders for River. Boca doesn't have that glue, right? And then you have Cavani up top, who's been injured, but probably going to be starting at the Club World Cup. Paired alongside with Merentiel, it's a two Uruguayan striker combination up top. Merentiel is your workhorse. And it feels like if he's not on it, nothing else follows suit, because he's the one pressuring at the front line. He's the one running. So, to be honest with you, Ali, I don't have that much faith for Boca at the Club World Cup.
Yeah, here's a look at the odds to advance out of Group C. So Boca Juniors, they come in, is that supposed to be plus 115? Or minus 115, okay.
Minus 115 is
right.
pretty
Okay.
respectable.
Yeah, so, okay, the third best odds to get out of the group.
For me, actually, minus 115 is actually, I would think, pretty generous for Boca. I would have said that the odds would have been a little bit higher. Plus 15, I wouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah, that's why I almost...
It's just, I'm not convinced by Boca. I think Benfica have way too much quality. They're a European team. It just depends what's Benfica's mindset, what's Bayern's mindset, how serious they take this tournament. I think at the Club World Cup, we're going to see a lot of this. The South American teams, the African teams, they love this. How
well do you expect Boca fans to travel, by the way? Do you think that they're going to fill out these stadiums?
I think Boca will have the best fan base.
And that could be the advantage right there.
Cup. Sure, because the Club World Cup for a lot of these teams in South America means everything. There's a lot of heritage in these games where you have either one-offs or a tournament against European teams. We'll see how the Europeans take it.